What would I do if I was starting from scratch and building a business coaching practice? That's what we're discussing today on this episode of the Business Coaching Success Podcast. Let's jump in. BJ O'Neill here with the Business Coaching Success Podcast. So glad you're here, where I share with you strategies, tools, and tips to be able to grow your business coaching practice to six figures and beyond as a Christian business coach. Let's jump in. Welcome. Glad that you are here. BJ O'Neill with Business Coach Mastery. Pleasure to be with you. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, we would love it if you could give us a review. Give us a 5-star review that helps others find the podcast in that area. If maybe you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. Also helps others find it. And whatever platform you're on, your Spotify, Google, and so I know that lots of people listen in different ways. Your input, your questions, your reviews, your likes, your subscribes all matter as a part of the community here with our podcast and the efforts of just helping others to grow value in what they're doing. Okay. So in this question, or in this episode rather, the question that I get often, hey, BJ, if you were starting your business coaching practice over again, what would you do? How would you do it? What would that be like? What are your thoughts? And so on. So I've spent some time doing this, and I'm going to lay out the exact strategy that I would use today in building a coaching practice from scratch. Okay. Now, for context, the very first client that I ever got years ago, there was no YouTube, there was no Facebook, there was no Zoom. Like, so many things are different. At least the tools that we use. Now, relationship building is the same, but the tools that we have available to us today are very different. So certainly, I wouldn't do it the exact way that I used to do it, because we now have a completely different set of tools at our disposal, as I'm going to discuss. So, for context, for those of you that maybe you're thinking about growing a business coaching practice, perhaps you coach for free now, maybe you own a business and you really would like to help others, maybe you sold a business and so on, you want to help others. In our community, Business Coach Mastery community, we use a method that's a total done-for-you turnkey solution in helping you build a legitimate business coaching practice where you can earn, 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand, whatever you want to do, depending on what your goals are, what your needs, and so on. So in the context of what I would do, I'm going to utilize that system in this. I'll explain that as we kind of go throughout it. Number one, I'm going to develop strategy. We are business strategists and should be using strategy to build our very own business coaching practice. That's under that strategy. It's things like, how am I going to add value in the marketplace? How am I going to be viewed as a leader, be seen as a leader? What are the activities? What are the things that I'm going to do to exhibit leadership qualities, the events that I'm a part of, the relationships that I'm building, the networking groups that I might be a part of, all of the ramifications of how I can interact with those, where at the end of the day, they begin to recognize me, the community, as a leader in business. Okay? As a part of strategy, I'm going to connect with as many people as I possibly can. Now, some hear that and they go, well, that's not really narrow in its onset, right? It's not by design, meaning that when it comes to the gatekeepers, the assistants, the connected people in the C-suite, the list goes on and on and on. If we have such a myopic view of our avatar, which we need to have some type of focus over time of like, what's the perfect fit for me as a coach. But my experience has led me to, man, when you're adding value to everyone, like, it will feel like things are just falling in your lap. It won't. It's because of the investment. I'm going to give you a little silly example, and I'm doubling down here to spend some time. By the way, if you listen to many of the episodes, watch many of the episodes, this one is going to be longer by design. And towards the end, I'm going to give you a really specific way to how to wrap all of this up I think that'll make sense to you. So this past weekend, we were in Birmingham, Alabama. My daughter cheers competitive cheer. We were at an event as we're pulling into the arena, I had to pay for parking, and I rolled my window down. There was the parking attendant. She had the little, point of sale device in her hand to take my credit card to charge me for the parking. So when I rolled my window down, it was early in the morning, like 7:50 in the morning. I rolled the window down. It had been misting, raining a little bit, super overcast, cloudy, very, very windy. And I rolled the window down and I said, I would like 2 bacon, egg, and cheese biscuits, please. And the attendant kind of looked up with a puzzled look. And then they realized I was joking, and she just laughed and she goes, oh my gosh, that's so funny. And we just talked. And that's corny, I get it. But as we drove off, my daughter goes, hey, why do you do that? Why do you always interact with just about everybody like that? I'm like, because when you add value to everyone, number one, that young lady is going to stand there all day long, wind, a little bit of rain back and forth, cars going by, on her feet all day long. Did you see her look up and smile and laugh? Like, she probably won't get that many moments to do that. So number one, I made an investment to just, for a couple of seconds, made the young lady laugh a little bit. And it was fun. Number two, when you have the strategy of adding value to everyone, when you get into the lane of your prospects, you are on your game. If all you do is to add value to just those that are going to be prospects, to me, it's just a start-stop mentality, and you're just not always yourself, and it can kind of come off fake if you're not careful, and we don't want to do that. So we want to connect to as many people, add value to everyone, and then I'm going to become very well known. Like, my goal is to become very well known in my circle. Spurkle is not a word. In my circle, in my community, in the networking groups, like well known, like BJ's the guy. Like, if you're talking about strategy and growing profitability, but you've got to talk to BJ. Like, it's not even a question. You got to do it. Why? This isn't about being selfish. It's not about me. Why is that so important? Because at the end of the day, you want to become the hunted. Like, that's a part of the strategy. Well, you can't do that if you're just door knocking and you're only available to those who are going to be, clients. When you get out into the community, you're connecting with people, your church, all the different circles that you're in, and people, you just become very well known. You become liked, you become known, and you become trusted. It changes everything. Okay, so I'm going to build, and you can add to that in your own little way, but I'm going to build a strategy. Okay, that's value, leadership, connecting to as many people as possible, becoming well known in my circles, and so on. That's a bedrock of who I'm going to become, and they're going to become to know me as the idea guy, the strategy guy, and the profitability guy. Like, that's what's going to happen over time, okay? The second thing, so we got strategy, number one. Number two is discipline. Discipline is going to be a significant part of my plan, okay? I don't care what activity I'm doing, there's going to be days that I'm not going to want to do it. I will not have motivation, because you can't be motivated every single day. Cold days, tired days, sick days, all these different days, I'm going to be disciplined with a metric that says every day, every week, every month, these things must happen. And I'm going to follow it. It's the same pattern as to why water, when dripped consistently, can erode concrete over a period of about 5 years. Why? How can a water that you can't even hold in your hand penetrate one of the hardest surfaces on the planet? Because of consistency. We want to have the same discipline of consistency with our activity, the phone calls, the meetings, the follow-ups, the list goes on and on and on. So discipline is a part. It's not just what I'm going to do. It's a part of my DNA of running my business, building relationships, adding value, and being a trusted individual in the community when it comes to business growth. All right. And then when it comes to these areas, I'm going to monitor them monthly and quarterly. In other words, I'm going to reevaluate, especially the first 6 months. I'm going to evaluate my activity. I'm going to evaluate how I'm doing with my discipline. I'm going to evaluate the pieces of this strategy. Should I start? Should I stop? Should I continue? Should I add? What's working? What's not working? Too many people continue just to do things over and over and over and never examine them. I'm going to examine them. Okay? So strategy, discipline, and we're monitoring them. Okay? Then we've got tools in the tool belt. We need to know and understand what tools do I have available to me based upon the relationships and the conversations that I'm developing, okay? So inside of our turnkey solution system, one of the things that we give coaches that I'm going to have at my disposal is a ghostwritten book. All right. This book deals with 12 areas of where we find financial breakthroughs for any business. All right. So I'm going to develop multiple ways to utilize that book, both in physical form and in digital form. It will not be a second guessing thing. It's going to be a forefront piece for me to be able to utilize to build value through content, which I'm going to talk about content in just a moment as to what I'm going to do with that term. It'll make sense in a moment, okay? So a book is a part of a tool. That's all that it is, right? Second is content. I'm going to develop a solid content plan in a couple of different ways. This is going to be one of the ways that's going to be an extension of how people are going to get to know me even before they get to know me. All right? I'll explain that in a moment. Next is a workshop. We're not making up anything new, right? We know that workshops work. Being in person with others absolutely matters. Virtual works as well. I love in person, especially when you're coaching locally. All right? But here's the twist. Now, this is going to be counterintuitive to a lot of people's thinking. I'm going to keep mine intimate, meaning I'm probably going to schedule one per month, at least for the first 6 to 8 months, on routine, with discipline, every single month. But the difference is I'm only going to allow 5 to 8 people in that room. Why? Because it allows for some scarcity and for me to build it up with energy, saying, hey, listen, I want to invite you to a workshop I'm doing called a Profit Acceleration Workshop. We're going to learn this, and so on. But we only allow up to 8 people in the room for intimacy, for better communication, for better fostering a conversation. And you're going to learn, and we just have found this is a really good way to just, be a part of what's going on, and just rather than just being a spectator. Now, that doesn't mean that a couple of times throughout the year, beginning of the year, or a special time here or there, I might do a workshop where you can get 25 people in the room. But I like having smaller numbers because we can focus. And I have found, at least in my own case, that when we have smaller numbers, oftentimes we get better conversions of what we're going to ask them to do, which is inviting them to our full-blown assessment. When you get 15, 20 people, it's a lot easier for them to hide a little bit and just not, be as vocal in that. When you get, 7, 8 people in the room, they kind of feel a little bit, there's a little bit of obligation. So it's a strategy upon why you would want to do it that way, all right? Then, so I've got my book, I've got content, I've got workshop. These are tools in my tool belt. Now, the other two that I have is that we have a simulation tool inside our done-for-you system that every coach has at their disposal on showing business owners how we can double profits for any business in 5 minutes. Whether you call it a profit doubler, whether you call it, the accelerator module, I don't know, call it whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter. It's still a tool, and it only takes 5 minutes to show the concept. So that might be a tool I use in certain relationships. And then, of course, our full-blown assessment where we can find any business more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending additional money on marketing or advertising. This is our sophisticated custom proprietary software, very interactive, very engaging. So in my tools, the way that I'm building the relationship, these are the things that I'm going to interact with them. My book, content, workshop, my 5-minute profit conversation, and my assessment. So I got 5 ways that are very values driven through content to interact and build relationships. This is just about what I know. We want to be able to help them to see some things, talk through some things, and these tools will absolutely help you do that. All right, we've got strategy. We've got tools. Now we've got the strategies of actual lead generation and relationship building. This is what I would do. Number 1, I am going to divide and build a very well-defined sphere of influence plan. Let me explain. Too many coaches, they start out and they walk around all of the people that they've got equity in, people who already know them. They start all their conversations cold. It's not necessarily a bad thing, except for you can't leverage the relationships that you already have. And anytime that you do something cold, it's going to take longer. So you miss out on leverage and you elongate the process by every conversation being cold. So who are these people in your sphere? Friends, relatives, neighbors, people at your church, people in other communities, people that you've met through your kids' ball teams. The list goes on and on and on. Anybody that you could identify as someone that knows you, that likes you, and trusts you. All right? Now, in my world, likely yours is too, you probably know 100 to 300 people that are in that sphere. It'll take a solid year to walk through and sitting down with all of my sphere. Well, inside that strategy of a sphere of influence, I'm going to sit down with them, and I have built this framework already. All of our coaches have access to it in our community, to where we're going to sit down with them and we're going to show them what we're doing. We're going to let them peek at our website. We're going to let them see a couple of our tools at a very high level, just so they understand what we're doing, why we're doing it. And here's the thing. Those who know you and like you and trust you, they do want to help you when you ask them in the right way. So I'm going to ask those fear, hey, I've got 2 questions. You likely have people in your network that I should know. Number 1, who would you think that, man, you'd be a great connection, that there is some reciprocity there, there's some synergy there, like you should really know these people in your network. The second question is, do you know specifically business owners who you believe I could be a resource to, or potentially even I could help them? All right? When you sit down with over 100 people over a period of time, you're going to get connected to a ton of people and grow your network extensively. All right? So that's the plan. Sphere of influence, and I'm going to go through all of them. Now remember, life is life. Some of them, it'll take 2 or 3 months to get down just because your schedule, their schedule, travel, this, that, and the other, life, sick, kids, whatever, grandkids, stuff happens. And that's the reason why you want to build a plan. So if this is my plan, sphere of influence is going to be a big portion of what I do to extend and to build my network to get to know other people and continue that process. I'm going to make the decision to go, my goal is to sit down with 3 of sphere of influences every week. It could be 2, it could be 5. The number's somewhat arbitrary. But let's just say it's 3. And I'm going to start working through my plan, and I'm going to put them in an order of probably of how they know me first. And I'm going to start working through, start filling up those spots. As I sit down, I'm going to walk through a very specific, framework to let them see. And then those people that they do connect me to, I'm going to give them a framework of a script to ask them to introduce me via email or text. All right? And I promise you, if you do this, it absolutely works. Again, I can't stress enough. If you reach out to 10 of them, 3 of them might follow through, within the first, 60 days or so because of life. That's the reason why you want to have a consistent plan. I've done this before. I know it to be true. And that's the reason why you want to stay with it, be consistent. And this is where discipline comes into the ballgame. The discipline is I'm reaching out, I'm reconnecting until someone says yes. It might be on Zoom. It could be a coffee. It could be in person. It will not be a phone call. I just don't want to do the phone call. I'm trying to make this intimate because I want them to really see what I'm doing. It will make the process way more legitimate when you do it Zoom, in person, or a coffee. It may not be, but that's why Zoom is, if you're not in person with somebody in your market or whatever, then by far that's where Zoom is going to come in and play, okay? Then you're turning these different connections into referrals. And you're going to begin to categorize these referrals. Some of them are just, they need to be a part of my network. All of them I'm going to friend request on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, okay? Facebook, now maybe you don't have one of those or whatever, but I'm just telling you what I'm going to do. Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Therefore, they're going to begin to get to know me through my social media channels. If they're on social media, I'm also going to ask their permission to put them into my email system as well. So they're going to start to get content from me also. And here's the beautiful part. Those that are getting to know, that are a part of they're not business owners, but they're great people that need to know. The wonderful part about this is that because they're starting to see things from me, content, conversation, personality, family, all the things, it puts them in a great position over time to also now become a referral source. And this is where things feel like they fall out of the sky. Not true. It's because of the effort that you're investing in this process. Prayerfully, this is making sense to you and you're getting value from it. Okay? So that's the referral process. I'm going to start to categorize them all. And then based upon what category they're in, just a good contact to know. Maybe they are. They could become a referral partner. I believe there's something there that hey, they have an extensive network. I've checked them out on LinkedIn. I need to, at some point, interact with them and ask for referrals from them. Might not be 6 months from now, but eventually I'm going to put them there. So I'm going to tag them in my CRM as such. Great referral partner or whatever the tag may be, okay? And then the others that are obvious prospects, they're going to go inside a different bucket as well, and I'll begin to communicate to all three of them in a different way. Some in a normal way, others I might interact with them a little bit differently. Okay, here's where the content strategy comes into play. And I think that you're going to find a lot of value out of this. I'm telling you, I made a living doing this, and this is where, if you'll listen to me and follow suit, it can change your life. So the content strategy is mega simple. And by the way, I had this before. We had a little bit of it, but we didn't have podcasts. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have blogs and vlogs and so on. But as a part of my strategy of building relationships and adding value, I'm going to do it through content. I may choose a podcast. I might choose to have a video channel on YouTube. I might do it through just a blog. It could be a hybrid of a vlog. In other words, some video content inside the blog and so on. And so what I'm going to do with the prospects, and not all of them are going to be prospects for me, but they could be really strong thought leaders or even C-suite executives, but they don't own a business. I'm going to invite them for a 10-minute interview to go over some things about growing profitability. A couple of things are going to happen in this. And if you maybe I don't know how to do a podcast. I don't really, if I want to, start with a blog. All right, start with something. Make it simple. You don't have to have a fancy setup. And by the way, you can podcast and do videos on the YouTube, and it didn't cost anything. Equipment, yes, hardly anything though compared to what it used to. But before we had high-profile cameras, you name it, paying for services every month. Spotify lets you do that for free. YouTube lets you do that for free. They make their monies in different ways. So I'm going to invite them to a 10-minute interview, typically 3 questions inside that 10 minutes, all related to profit strategies, challenges that they're going through, and so on. Here's what's happening. 1, you as the coach and strategist are going to learn a ton. If you set up 5 of those conversations every single week over a period of 3 or 4 months, it's going to change your perspective of business growth from the seat of business owners, CEOs, C-suite executives, leaders, and so on. And so we'll walk through that. I'm going to feature them on that blog, on that podcast, on that video channel, or whatever, just based upon what I want to do. Then I'm going to make an invitation to them at the end of that, based upon the conversation, based upon the relationship of knowledge of how I know them, and so on. That could be the 5-minute conversation about profits. That could be inviting them to my workshop. That could be directly to the assessment itself. It just depends. No one relationship is the same. That's the reason why you're not going to have the exact same pattern of strategy for every single person based upon multiple factors. But I've got tools in my tool belt, and now I'm ready to interact with them just based upon what's going on, okay? So I'm getting referrals. I'm connecting with referrals. I'm making invitations with the content strategy, with my content. And now that content, not only am I engaging with prospects, but that content now is being used to shower other people's with strategy conversations. That's them getting to know me. So I'm posting it on LinkedIn. I'm posting it on my Facebook. I'm posting it on Instagram. I'm sending out an email. And so over time, this is going to build momentum. I just had a guy actually yesterday who made a comment. Said, you had in one of your podcast episodes, I'd never met him before in my life. It was the first conversation I've ever had with him. He said, you had a podcast episode that I watched on YouTube that was about distraction. He said, man, it really spoke to me because that's the challenge that I have. So there I am building relationship with someone through video that I've never met. So by the time that they got on the video with me, they feel like they know me to some degree. That's the beautiful part about content and content generation, okay? And so some of these invitations, guess what? 3 weeks, 3 months, it's going to depend. That's the reason why you're constantly going through. And you're going to also have what I call organic conversations relationships that'll find themselves to you beyond just your sphere of influence only. So my sphere of influence, my content in my workshop, because I'm going to put people in that workshop. Maybe I decide in all of this that I do need to go to networking events, Maybe I decide all these different things. It just depends. I might test a few things here and there, but my biggest overall strategy in the beginning will be sphere of influence, will be a content strategy, it will be workshops, period. Then, as I'm monitoring, remember part of my strategy is monitoring monthly and quarterly. I'm monitoring, and this is where I'm going to determine what I need to add, what I need to stop and kill, what I need to massage and get better at and refine that process. The list goes on and on and on. I've got to make sure I have space and time on my calendar. What gets scheduled gets achieved. I want to make sure I have that on my calendar to be able to do. Otherwise, 1 month goes into 3 months, goes into 6 months, and I've not evaluated the tools, the systems, the process, and so on. Okay? Lastly, that I'm going to do, I may not do it the first few months, but I am going to do it because I believe in them. And I actually have a podcast episode about this just a few episodes ago. I'll see if I can't find it as I'm talking here. But all around the ability to create groups, like creating groups groups meaning like your own networking group, or maybe it's a group specifically for Christian business owners. Maybe it's a lead swapping group. I don't know. But I'm going to create this is not a workshop. This is different. This is another area that I'm going to develop where people are going to learn, they're going to connect, they're going to communicate together, they're going to build community together. And so you get, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 people over time, and they start inviting people. You're going to, again, meet a ton of people. Guess what? Those people, you can invite them, same thing, to your 5-minute conversation, to your assessment, to a workshop, to your content strategy. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Super important that you follow these types of processes, okay? And so that's the reason why, and I'm sitting here looking, but if you're watching me on video, I'm looking for this episode name. I should have had that written down, but I can't. Here we go. How coaching, you can go back and look at this, it's about groups. How coaching communities supercharge your business, okay? How coaching communities supercharge your business. It was published October 24 of 2024, all right? So that'll help you to be able to just, what is it like to build a community in a group? And I deal with that on a complete and total separate podcast. I've just shared with you, if I started over, exactly what I would do. My strategy, my plan, based upon years of experience of working with not only myself, with business owners, with coaches, you name it. And I'm telling you what I just laid out. You can take versions of that, make it your own, morph it, make it fit you, and so on. But I'm going to rinse and repeat, and that plan is going to be consistent enough to bring clients. Last thing, as I start to get clients, I will have a strategy when I'm getting quick wins with those clients to get referrals from my clients. And over time, you get 3 clients. Out of those 3, you're likely to get 1 more client. Right? So as you get 3 new ones from all the resources, you can get another client. All of a sudden, now you're getting clients from clients, and all this stuff matters. And here's what happens. I'm going to evaluate all of it after the 12-month cycle. See, too many people make too many changes too quick, and they don't see a lot through. And that's problematic because not everything takes off the same way. Sometimes you have to just keep scratching at it before it really happens. It pops. It takes off. It finds value to you. And so by working through a plan like this over 12 months, that gives you a chance, all right, I've really spent a lot of time here in going through this. Now you can determine, do I need to do other things? Oh, by the way, there could be moments, before I forget, where it might make good sense in my plan as I'm building relationships with other people. There's going to be a few things that are going to just kind of naturally happen, like potentially creating a what we call joint venture with a CPA or maybe a digital marketing company or a financial planner or whatever. Some things are just going to begin to show. I might even do a workshop that's in harmony with another individual too. Like other things are going to happen and through or just the organic nature of how this works that I may be interested in if I believe it fits into my overall plan of building my business. Lastly, before I let you go, all of this has to have a plan of what my numbers are going to look like, meaning how am I going to back into what I want to earn? Do I want to earn 100 grand? Do I want to earn 200 grand a year, 300 grand a year? That number matters. And then what am I going to charge? $2,000 a month is the average that a coach charges for one-on-one coaching. But, you can also do group coaching, and we have tools online where they can just go through your system a la carte on their own. There's lots of different ways to do that. I need to back into my number. That's going to speak to how many clients you're going to have. And then I'm going to use some KPIs, at worst case, 30% conversion, so that I've got some measurables to be able to work through, to work on. I want to eventually get that to a 50% or so, but 30 will probably be a good starting point. So if I'm trying to get client number 1 within 90 days, and then my plan is to get a minimum of additional clients, 1 per month. So over a 12 months time, I'm going to prayerfully be around 10 clients should everything go as planned. I might have more, I might have less. If I'm trailing the 12-month cycle and I've only got 6 and it's getting close or whatever, I got to go figure out then of my plan, what's not working well. Am I following discipline? Do I have enough of the numbers? Am I getting enough people into a workshop? Am I talking to enough people? Am I goofing off and being lazy? Like, these things matter. They'll speak into the overall process. So there you go. That's what I would do if I started over today. I would build that plan. I would follow that plan religiously, day in and day out, until I started to see the success that I'm looking for. Perhaps you've heard this, you've been thinking about coaching, as I said earlier. You don't have resources and tools. You love the idea, but you don't have the content. You're just curious about what we do with our done-for-you system. You can go to businesscoachmastery.com. That's businesscoachmastery.com. There's some information you can get there, which we share with you about our done-for-you solution, as well as if you're curious, you want to have a conversation, we do a quick chat where we can give you a high-level overview of exactly how everything is done, and then you can determine if it's worth learning more about or not. Okay? There you go. Until next time, take care.